everybody, today we're going to be making the Hoop Studio Holly's handbag accessories. This is the June 2025 Hoop Studio project from Me Time Delivered. If this is your first time seeing a Hoop Studio project, this is by Me Time Delivered. It's a Kimberbell company. Every month you get 1 to 3 machine embroidery projects. There's fabric, embellishments, printed full color instructions, and then with your subscription you get access to the Me Time digital library. It stores all your embroidery files, and there's a subscriber discount to the Me Time store. Let's open it up and see what's inside. The package will have everything we need to complete this month's project. We have our project card. We've got Hoop Studio Holly's handbag accessories. The back of the card shows you everything that comes in your kit. This kit will feature fabric, the instructions, the embellishment and accessories we need to complete these projects. We have our fabric, our water-soluble pen, a couple pieces of project batting, hardware, zipper, ribbon, everything we need to make the two projects. We're going to be making both of these projects. Chapter markers are in the description box below for easy reference. First project is the card holder. This can be made in a 5x7 hoop. And the second project is a lip balm holder. This can be made in a 4x4 hoop. In addition to these supplies, you'll need some fusible backing and light mesh cutaway stabilizer and some paper tape. At the beginning of both projects, you'll see the fabrics laid out by color and number. They tell you how to do your fabric cutting. So here's the card holder and here's the lip balm holder. We're going to make both projects today. We're going to start with the card holder. Get all your supplies ready. Right here on the bottom of page 2 of the instructions, it gives you some information about the resource guide and the cutting diagrams. I've already cut my fabric and I've put the fusible backing on the fabrics that are indicated. We're going to start here on number 2. You also want to get your thread ready. It gives a color of linen. I don't have that color of glide thread. I have a lot of Floriani thread. This is the color I picked for linen. And we're going to need a ruler and the wash away marker. A tip for this water soluble pen, wash away marker, whatever you'd like to call it, use a light touch, just enough on the fabric so you can see it, and then it comes off easily with either a spray or a dab of water. We want to get our short pocket and tall pocket fabrics. We're going to be folding them wrong sides together. Let me flip them wrong side up. And it says to fold them in half widthwise. So length is long, width is short. We're going to fold the short edges together like that. And then we're going to need to press those. Then we're going to take our lining fabric. We're going to fold this also wrong sides together. And this one we're folding in half lengthwise, so long side. If you want it the same orientation, I had the yellow like that. Long side, short side, long side together, fold and press. I'm going to take these over to my ironing board and give them a good press. We want to get our lining fabric. It says to unfold it wrong side up. There's that nice crease. You just pressed it on your ironing board. We're going to draw a line right along that crease with our water soluble marker. Again, light touch with this. I'm standing over here. I'm going to go ahead and turn this. That way it's facing me. I'm going to use a ruler, put it right on that crease. Got my little marker here, wrong side up. If you mark it right side up, flip it over and do it on the wrong side, the marker will come off. No worries. Very light touch. Once you've got that mark, let me turn it this way so it's the proper way for you. From the top down, we're going to measure 1 1/4 inches and draw a line this way. 1 1/4. I'm going to grab this ruler and draw that line across. And I'm making sure that I'm lined up straight with my crease. 1 1/4. Very light touch. That's what it should look like. Here's a close-up. Find this piece. This is the magnetic clasp piece. It's in the bag with all the accessories. I'm going to go ahead and take it apart. Once you've got the washers off, you need to separate these two pieces with the prongs it's a strong magnet. I've got to get in there with my fingernail to pull that apart. This piece here that has the little bit sticking up, that's the top, and this piece with the indent is the bottom. The washers are the same, so if they get switched between the two gold pieces, no worries, they're the same. I grabbed another piece of fabric so these don't slide. You got your two lines here. Here's the top. It says to center a washer on the marked crosshairs, marking the prong slits on the fabric. Washer, this is to center it on the crosshair, and then to mark the sides. Okay. Here's the top of your fabric. I centered it on the crosshairs. I'm going to set my washer aside so I don't lose it. It has us folding along this line, the second line we drew. Like that, fold along that line, and then where you have your two marks, we're going to cut two tiny slits. Get some sharp scissors and to cut two tiny slits. 1, 2. Here's a close-up. I cut right there where I had the markings. Get your top clasp, that's the one that sticks out. Right now this is wrong side up. Here's the top piece again, the one that's got the little button. Now I've got the prongs sticking up, they're sticking toward the camera. I'm going to slide this on the right side, push it through the slits on the right side so the prongs stick up and out of the wrong side of the fabric. You should be looking at the wrong side of your fabric. Grab a washer and slide it over those prongs like that. I'll bring it up to the camera. On the right side of the fabric, you can see the little piece that pokes out. On the wrong side, you've got the prongs and the washer. Then you're going to bend the prongs towards the center. These are pretty strong. I'm going to get something to help push that with. Got a screwdriver. I'm going to place that against the prong and push on the screwdriver. If you have delicate hands, which I don't, you'll want to put a piece of fabric or like a rubber jar opener or something on it to cushion that. But what you're doing is folding the prong in. The screwdriver seems to be working fine. That's down pretty good. I need to turn it this way. I'm going to go ahead and do that again. And it's a little wobbly because the button part is right here on the back. If you've got a piece of batting, which we probably all do, this might keep it from slipping on my cutting board. Oh, that was much better, because that allows the part that's sticking out to poke into the batting, and it gives you a flatter feel of your surface rather than having it wobbling on my cutting mat. That looks pretty good. I'm going to take this end and give it another push. Let's have a look at that. Definitely recommend put a piece of scrap batting down and set that on top. That was a lot easier. Everything's folded in, and again, the part that's sticking out is on the right side of your fabric. I'm going to take this and set it aside, put some light mesh cutaway in a 5x7 hoop, and then we're going to head over to the machine. Remember to hand tighten and screwdriver tighten. You don't want this popping out while it's embroidering. I'm on a baby lock meridian. I've got my files on USB, my instructions. Let's go ahead and pull up our file. I need to find Hoop Studio, Holly's Handbags Accessories. There it is. And we're working on the card holder, this one that kind of looks like an egg. Bring that up. There's only one file. I hit the set button and then the embroidery button, and I'm ready to go. I have the linen color already on my machine. It does say use a visible thread. It should show up fine against the white stabilizer. The first thing we're going to do is stitch the batting placement line and the clasp crosshair, and you stitch that right onto your stabilizer. I have this off the machine. You need to look at your crosshair right there, and then it says to grab a ruler and to extend these lines horizontally and vertically throughout the stabilizer on your hoop. I'm going to go ahead and turn this towards me, and the cutting mat has lots of lines on it. I'm going to line up the thread line right there. That'll help me line up my ruler. Grab your washable marker here, water-soluble pen. And then we want to extend it towards the edge of the hoop. And then we need to go up and down. I'm going to do the same thing and line up that thread line with a line on this cutting mat. And if you get a water soluble pen onto your mat, just wipe it off when you're done here and it'll come right off. Don't let it sit, wipe it off. Go ahead. And we're going to line that all the way down. It says to extend both those lines to the edge of your hoop. Here's a close-up. You can see the thread crosshairs, and I've drawn my line this way and this way. If it's not exactly on the threads, don't worry about it. These projects always come out great, even if you're a little bit off on some of the things. I've never had a problem with any of the Kimberbell projects. The next thing we want to do is get our project batting and tape it in place. I'm going to do that while I have it off the machine. It'll be easier. Grab the batting. You want to make sure you cover the outline of your project. Just like that. And I've got some tape ready. We'll go across and we'll go down on the side, just like in the picture. We're back at the machine. The hoop is on. Our batting is taped. We're going to stitch the batting tack down line. Once that's stitched out, grab your scissors, trim the excess from around the outside, and you'll need to pull off your tape. Once you have this trimmed, the next step is stitching the back placement line. That line's stitched just outside the batting. You want to get your backing fabric, place it right side up, make sure everything is covered. It sets really well on top of the batting. You don't have to tape. Since I have the pieces of tape I just took off from my batting, I'm going to go ahead and put some tape right on the edges, just in case. It does not show that in the instructions. I'm just doing that for me. Make sure it's nice and smooth, get it taped down, and then we'll stitch the tack down line. Once that's stitched, we've got to extend these little tick lines. The second time it went around, it bumps out and it makes two small tick marks on each side. I'm going to take this over to the table. Those tick lines, when you make this project, you'll see you've got to get really close to see them. There's one there and one there. They're very tiny. It's like one stitch. And one right by the flower there. And where's the other one? I see that one. The other one kind of blends in. What we're going to do is get a ruler and our water-soluble pen, and we want to connect these lines. Now the ruler I'm using isn't long enough. I'm going to see if I have one that's slightly longer that'll make this process a bit easier for me. If you don't have a ruler that fits inside the hoop, you could also fold something. Over here I have a piece of scrap stabilizer. That would work too. You could use that as a ruler, draw along the straight edge, whatever you have. I'm going to see if I have a ruler that fits. This is a 5.5 inch square ruler. You want to go ahead and line up your ruler, straight edge, whatever you have, and it has us extending it all the way edge to edge. So we'll go ahead, light touch. There's one and two. Okay, and it tells you to label the lower line A. I don't even think we're going to see it. What I'm going to do is put tiny little pieces of tape here. Just grabbed a couple pieces of scrap tape and I'm putting them off to the side. That way I can label these and I'll actually be able to see it. The fabric is really dark, so you can't see it. We're going to label our lower line A, and the upper line B. Now I can see which line is which more easily. Once you have both your lines drawn and marked, we're going to go back to the machine. We're going to stitch the quilting and then a ribbon placement line. We're right here on step 23 and 24 in the instructions. We just did the quilting. For step 24, we're stitching a ribbon placement line. The little I here means to use a visible thread. I'm going to leave the thread that I have on my machine and watch where it stitches. And then for the next step, we need to get ribbon and a D-ring ready. Back at the beginning with the prep instructions, right down here under additional materials, it shows you the ribbon. We need one length of 3 inches for this project. I'm going to stitch my ribbon placement line. It's stitched right inside the stitch line. It's right there. We need to get our D-ring and our ribbon. You have a 3-inch cut of your ribbon. This is the D-ring. You want to put the ribbon through the flat side of the D-ring and then fold it in half. Just like that. And then we're going to place that, it says horizontally, on the placement line with the D-ring lying toward the center and the raw edge extending 1/2 inch over the placement line. Here's my placement line. These are the raw edges. It's going to tack down 1/2 inch. You can get a ruler if you want and measure. I'm good. That's about 1/2 inch. Ring toward the center. Have a couple of pieces of tape ready. We're going to tape this down like that, and then we're going to tape down over here. I'm going to go ahead and just put the tape right over the D-ring. It doesn't matter. Make sure it's secure, and then we're going to stitch a ribbon tack down line. Once that little tack down line has stitched, it does say to remove the tape. Grab your short pocket fabric. We've got it right sides up. Remember, we folded it in half and the wrong sides are together. Here's my fold. We're going to align this fold with line A with the fabric covering the bottom of the hoop. Here's your fabric, the opened end and the folded end. It says to line it up like that. And if you look at the pictures in the instructions, it actually does show the little ring sticking up. So line up your fold with line A, just like that, and it should cover the bottom stitch line right here. So if you had accidentally folded this the wrong direction in the beginning, say you folded it the wrong way, like that, you didn't realize it, you would be doing this and saying, oh, well, this doesn't cover this bottom line. You folded your fabric the wrong way. I've done that before. So line up your fold, line A, cuts right through the center of the ribbon in the D-ring. It covers the bottom, and then we want to go ahead and add some tape. It shows a piece of tape here and here. I'm going to add one on the bottom. Cover that whole piece with the hardware up. We'll cover this piece, and I'm going to add a small piece to the bottom, close to the bottom though, because the stitch line is right there. I want to keep it secure but not have the tape get caught in the stitch line. We're going to go back to the machine and stitch the short pocket tack down line. It's going to go like this, and then we're going to remove the tape. That's all stitched out. Remove your tape, get your tall pocket fabric, and we're going to take that fabric fold and we're going to line that up with line B. There's my line B. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that little B. Tape that down just like you did the one we just finished. I'm going to go ahead and tape and tape, and it lines up at the bottom. Mine's a little bit longer, that's fine, as long as it's a little bit longer or it lines up. And tape. Then we go back to the machine and we stitch the tall pocket tack down line. It's going to stitch the same kind of line. Once that's stitched down, you can go ahead and remove your tape. You may have noticed before that line stitched down, I kind of went like this. I was double checking, making sure that this D-ring had it slid over and that it was going to jam under my machine. I wanted to be sure that I didn't cause any problems for my machine. For the next part, I'm going to take this piece of tape off. I need to be able to see that line right there that we made back at the beginning. For this part, we need to be able to see these lines. I can see here and here. I can't see anything here. At some point, we're going to trim this off. I'm going to go ahead and just cut a little bit of it because I need to be able to see that line. So if you can't see your line, it's okay to get rid of a little piece of fabric there. You need to get your fabric from the beginning. This is our lining side fabric. This is the right side. We want it right sides down, so right sides are going to be together. We're aligning the center of the clasp right here with the marked crosshairs on the edges of the hoop. That's why I need to be able to see this line this line and this line, because we're going to line up this, this, and this with those lines. So as you're working on it, it'll be like this. I think I can do this sideways. Here's a line here, line up, and then I'm double checking my line there. That's lined up, and I have to line up with that center line. That's lined up, that's lined up, and that is lined up. I'm going to turn this towards me for a moment. This is your little prong, your snap. It should be landing about in the center, and actually you can feel that crosshair line underneath. So if you're having trouble seeing anything, or if you're having trouble seeing your mark, I can feel it. And you can almost, yeah, you can really feel it. That's where your button's going to land. Okay, that's good. So that's good, that's good, that's good. Go ahead and tape that down. Try not to shift it. I think I still have the tape here that has the letter A on it. I do. I'm going to pull that off. It'll get cut off in the end, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to get it out of the way. We're all taped. Then we're going to go back to the machine and stitch the final outline. This stitch is going to leave an opening for turning. So it's going to stitch, looks like this, and my guess is it'll probably do that twice, and it's going to leave us an opening on the bottom for turning. I went ahead and added a little piece of tape right there. So I have tape here, and tape here. Everything is stitched out. Go ahead and remove any tape and then get your project out of the hoop. Before I do anything else, I'd like to get rid of this blue marker. I always have a water bottle in my sewing room. You can use a Kleenex and get a Kleenex wet. You can use a cotton swab. You can use one of those sponge brushes. Lightly rub, it'll come off. You could also use a spray bottle. I'm going to get rid of that blue. It doesn't take much to get it off. I want that to be gone before I flip this the other direction, because once we turn it right sides out, it's stuck on the inside, and I don't want to take a chance that you'll be able to see it. That part's going to get cut off, that doesn't matter. That's done. Let's get rid of the blue here as well. Now this was drawn on the other side before the fabric got placed down on top of it. So this might be a little bit more work to get off, but it'll come off. I'm just rubbing it with a damp Kleenex. Again, if you want to spray it, you can spray it. If you want to run it under water, you can, but then you're going to have to let it dry, which where I live in Arizona, I think today is going to be 110 degrees. It'll dry in about 5 minutes. But if you live anywhere else, you'll have to wait for it to dry and wait to finish your project. Okay, no more blue. No more blue. I'm going to trim, like it says, 1/4 inch. And I'm going to trim on this side because I'm afraid if I trim all the way around on this side, I'll forget and I'll cut across that bottom. So let's trim it on this side. I'm going to use a pair of pinking shears. It talks about trimming all the way around and then adding notches. If you've got a good pair of pinking shears, it notches all the way around. Once you've got everything trimmed, we're going to turn it right side out, and it tells you right here, clip notches around the curves, which I use pinking shears, so I don't need to do that, and then to use a cotton swab to remove any of the water-soluble marks. I've already done that, so if you didn't do that already, do that now, and then turn your project right side out. Give yourself some time. There's a lot of bulk moving through that hole. This will probably take a little bit of time to turn right side out. Be patient with yourself. If you're hungry, go get a snack and then come back and finish. I've got this almost all the way poked through. I grab this as a clover point turner. I want to round the edges and make sure it looks nice and that everything is turned. And then it says to fold the raw edges of the bottom, fold them in, and to hand sew them closed. I don't hand sew anything unless I absolutely have to. It's a little pocket thing. I don't mind if I have a little bit of visible sewing. I'm going to do that on my sewing machine. A quick note about folding in the raw edges. We're not folding them in flat like that. It kind of feels like you should do that, but that's not what you want. We want to stitch along this bottom line here, so it has a nice little curve. So you'll fold in your raw edges like that and follow that curve. I see a blue mark. It's on the inside. It's on this fabric right there. I'm going to get a cotton swab and remove that last blue line. If you've got a really long cotton swab, handy for that, paintbrush, whatever, anything like that. You just have to barely touch it and that blue comes off. Once I'm done with that, I'm just about done. I'm going to give it one more press and then I'll take it to the sewing machine and sew that opening closed. I stitched it twice on my sewing machine. This was difficult to navigate. This absolutely will come out better if you hand stitch. I just really hate hand stitching. I've got the tiniest bit poking out right there. I think it's a little bit of stabilizer. This is for me. I'm going to take some fray check and just put it on that itty bitty, there's like 3 strings of thread just to make sure that it doesn't pop out. Step number 37, turn the pockets. So we've got 1 pocket, 2 pocket, toward the lining, use a pressing cloth, press the project well. As long as this is stitched down, it doesn't matter what it looks like. We're going to turn pocket 1, pocket 2 toward the lining. So flip that. You might need to get your point turner again. Great, I don't have to worry that my stitching wasn't the best. It just needed to be closed because that seam ended up right there on the inside. You don't see it. I'm going to make sure my edge is nice and round. And then it says to take it and go ahead and press it with a pressing cloth. I sewed a little bit crooked there. Oh, nope, I can poke that out. Great. Get it looking good. Get it to your iron. It does say to use a pressing cloth, so cover it up, pressing cloth. I think that's so you don't accidentally hit this with your iron, but I've already pressed the rest of it. I'm going to press this seam so it's not so wonky. Don't forget to spray some water or swab over your lines A and B on this side. We want to make sure that those come off. I got all this off. I went ahead and sprayed it with water and then gave it a good press. So not only did that remove those lines, it pressed this nice and flat. We're on number 38. Lay the project flat with the pockets and the clasp facing up. It says to fold down the flap. Let's fold that down, just like that. And then mark the point where the center of the clasp touches the short pocket. I'm going to turn this towards me and grab my little water-soluble pen. Go ahead and fold this down, fold it right along the top edge of that pocket. And we're going to mark where this little part of the snap is hitting. I'm going to put down a piece of tape this time so I don't have to get my project wet again. And then I can just write on the tape. Okay, you can feel where it's hitting. That's right where the little button there is hitting, and it tells you to make crosshairs. So we'll go ahead and make another little crosshair just like that. Now you need to go get your next washer. Here's the mark I just made. And it says to center the washer again, just like before. Right on the crosshair, so you have the little center of your mark there. Goes in the center of the round part of the washer, and then you're going to mark on either side. Mark on either side. Here's a close-up. I'm going to go ahead and pull my washer off, and we're going to cut along these slits. We just need to cut this outer pocket, because otherwise, if you cut through both, you only have one pocket, and there's no point of having one pocket since we put 2 pockets on it. So we need to cut along these slits, and then once I do that, I can peel that tape off. I won't need it anymore. Here's what your project should look like so far. It's a little difficult. You can kind of just squish it. Don't cut this inner pocket, just this outer pocket, and we need to cut along those slits. These are really sharp scissors. These are Karen K. Buckley scissors. I think I'll just be able to kind of get in there. I've got one finger on either side of that blue line, and I'm just gently poking the scissor through so I don't poke my finger. And then I'm cutting a slit through that outside pocket. There, I've got a little slit, and it's probably going to need to be a little bit bigger. We're going to be putting those prongs through it just like we did before. So I want to make sure I cut at least the length of that mark that I just made. Perfect. So again, I've got my fingers like this underneath, one on either side of the line. You could probably do this with a seam ripper too if you have a sharp seam ripper. Just don't poke your finger, don't cut your finger, and go back. Make sure I'm trimmed all the way through. And then it tells you at this point, use a cotton swab, remove the water-soluble marks from the pocket and the back fabric. We just did the back fabric at the ironing board, and then I did this with tape. A little bit of the blue is showing. I can take my swab and get that little bit off, but I don't have to get the whole thing wet. That's the advantage of the tape. We're going to be inserting the last prong. It has us flipping this way, that way. I think I can do it without flipping it. I can. If you look at the way it's going to go together, here's that piece, and then that's going to connect to this piece, and that's going to keep it closed. So your prongs are going this way, which is why it has you flipping that out, because we have to fold the prongs under. Putting the prongs through like this, that's what it's going to look like. But now you have to press those flat. I used the screwdriver to do that. I've got this poked through, and again, if this won't work for you, flip it the other way. Slide your washer over the prongs, keep the washer in place, and then you're going to fold those prongs down. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get this one with my hand. I actually started to fold this, and I realized I forgot the washer, because this one, for some reason, I'm able to push with my hand. I got that first prong down, and then I'll get the second one. And if you don't want to work with it like that, you can, I'll just flip it. I'll be really careful. You could flip it this way, and then put it in, put your washer on, press it down, and then flip it. I've got both of them down. Again, I'm going to take the screwdriver, push it from this side. I'm just pushing right on top of those prongs. Make sure it's nice and flat. That feels really secure. That was the last step. If you had flipped your pocket, you want to turn that back so it looks like this. You've got your top piece with the snap and the bottom piece. Closes really easily. It's magnetic. This will attach to the silicone wrist ring. This is included in the kit. This little ring is going to be for the other project we're going to do next. To open this, push it. Don't try and pull it. You won't be able to open it. Push it and put your D-ring on. And then this is designed to go over the wrist. Wow, this is really big. I have a really small wrist. This falls right off for me. If you've got a smaller wrist, this might be too big. I've got two quick alternatives to this. Let me take this off. Again, you push it and it'll come off the ring. I have long hair. It is not uncommon for me to be walking around with a hair tie on my wrist. I actually made this one. It's just a little hair scrunchie. You could also use a regular hair elastic. I wouldn't use an elastic band. I don't think it would be secure enough. Slide on your scrunchie. It's not falling off now. Not at all. Another option that I have, I make beaded bracelets. This is one of my bracelets. This has a really good fit. I can put a bracelet on here. Just like that. That fits really well. This is a thick elastic on my beaded bracelet, and that's not going to come off at all. Another option, you can clip this right to any bag. I just made the Betsy bag. There's a video for that on my channel. I'll link it below. This has D-rings on the back if you want to clip it to the outside of your bag, or you can clip it on the strap. Or if you're walking the dog, this can go on the dog leash. It can go on a belt. I don't know if anybody wears suspenders anymore. It can go on your suspenders. But you can do that. If you were making a gift for somebody, you could make these in coordinating fabrics. You could also clip this on the inside of your purse if you've got a hook on the inside of your purse. Or if you don't want it clipped on anything, you just want to take it off and put it in your back pocket, you can do that too. We're all done with the card holder. Again, this is a magnetic clasp. I find it easiest to open putting my fingernail in there. You've got a pocket here and a pocket here. Very handy. You could put cards and cash or Kleenex, whatever you need in that. Let's make the lip balm holder. Now we're going to make the lip balm holder. This one you can actually do in a 4x4 hoop. The smallest hoop I have for my machine is a 5x7. So I'll be using a 5x7, but if you have a 4x4 hoop, you can use that. Prep your fabric, and right over here, just to make sure that I don't forget, 3 inches of ribbon. And then it also has your nylon coil zipper, 7 inches. That's already ready to go. Go ahead and iron your fusible backing to the wrong side of the back fabric and the 2 front fabric pieces. Take your 2 front fabric pieces, place them right side down. We want to fold them over 1/2 inch along the long edge, like that, on both sides, and then take that to your iron and press. Next, grab your pieces of lining fabric, same thing, put them right side down, fold over 1/2 inch on the long side and press. Hoop your light mesh cutaway stabilizer, hand tighten, screwdriver tighten. And again, I'm using a 5x7 hoop, but you can use a 4x4 hoop. Let's get our file loaded. This is on USB. It's my Hoop Studio Holly's handbag accessories. And we want the lip balm holder. You only need 1 file. I'm going to go ahead and hit set, and then embroidery. We're going to start with our batting placement line. It does show using visible thread. I can see the linen colored thread absolutely fine on the stabilizer. I'm going to work with 1 thread color through the project. Stitch your batting placement line. You'll see it stitched out 2 little rectangles. You've got your piece of batting that came in the kit. Cover those up with your batting. Make sure each edge is covered, and then go ahead and put a little tape on it to hold it in place, and then stitch your batting tack down line. Remove your tape and trim away the batting outside of the stitch lines. This is what it looks like after it's trimmed. You've got 2 little strips of batting. Go ahead and put it back on your machine. We're going to stitch the zipper placement line. The little line stitched right here, here, and here. That's your zipper placement line. You're going to place your zipper right side up like this in between the placement line, with the pull over here on the left and the end over here on the right. And you want to make sure the pull, this is a zipper pull, and this little silver thing is the zipper stop. Make sure they extend outside of the stitching area. Tape the zipper exactly as shown. And there's a note that says it may be necessary to raise the presser foot to stitch over the zipper. I've stitched over their zippers before, haven't had an issue. Keep an eye on it. Don't get up and walk away when it's stitching this zipper tack down line. Go ahead and take this off your machine. Make sure you've removed your tape. You want to turn it to the back. And you're going to get rid of the stabilizer that's right here in the center to expose the zipper. You can do that with a seam ripper and poke the stabilizer carefully, and it'll just slide. See how easy that is? Now don't rip that seam. I'm going to go ahead and set this down. I have a board on my lap here, so I'll set it down. Do have some scissors over here. I'm going to go ahead and just snip it this way. And then I'll take the seam ripper again because it slides right through. And I'm just pulling at the stabilizer. I'm not touching the stitches. I can see the inside of the zipper. Let's get this last little bit. I'm going to use my scissors. It's a little bit easier. There we go. You need to be able to see your zipper just like that. You want a piece of your lining front fabric. That's the yellow fabric. We're going to put that on the top edge of the zipper teeth and the fabric covering the top of the hoop. Here's the folded edge. Top edge of the zipper teeth, fabric covering the top of the hoop. Like that. And then we need to add some tape. I'm going to put a piece of tape here. I'm going to lay these down really loosely. And then I'm going to place my hand underneath and then push the tape down. I don't want to push the tape like this because it's going to move the stabilizer. So put your hand underneath and get that tape pressed down. I'm actually going to add another piece of tape over here. I'm going to go ahead and add that extra tape. Now when I flip it to the front for the next step, it's not going to move. Once you have that in place, go ahead and turn your hoop to the front. Grab your front side fabric. We're going right side up, folded edge, top edge of the zipper teeth and fabric toward the top. So just like we did. Here's your folded edge. It's going to go along the top of the zipper teeth and fabric going to the top. Don't set it on top of the zipper teeth, right up against it. Just like that. I'm going to use 3 pieces of tape again, just in case. It just shows 2, but I'm going to use 1 on each edge and 1 across the top. Press it down really well. Double check. Make sure you're secure on the back. We're secure on the front. We're going to go back to the machine and stitch the above zipper tack down line. It's going to stitch a rectangle right here and tack down these 2 pieces of fabric. This is what it looks like. We're going to go ahead and turn our hoop to the back and remove the tape. Take your tape off your yellow fabric. All of our tape is off. We're not trimming anything at this time. Take your next piece of lining fabric, and we're essentially doing the same thing we just did up here, except we're doing it down here. So here's your folded edge, like that. We're going to line that up along the bottom of the zipper teeth. So what we're doing, if you get in close, we expose the zipper here, and there's a little stitching line here, and here's the bottom of the zipper. We're covering all of this up, and because this is folded and pressed, it's leaving a clean edge on the inside. Bottom of the zipper, you can see your zipper through here. Go ahead and line that up, and then put your tape down. And flip it over, and then grab your other piece of the blue fabric, your front fabric. Here's the fabric fold, right side up, same thing again, like that. You can take this tape off and reuse it for this piece of fabric. Give it a quick double check, tape and secure, back to the machine, and we're going to stitch the below the zipper tack down line. Once that's stitched, go ahead and remove this tape and then flip it over to the back and pull off that other tape as well. Once you have all of your tape removed, we're going to stitch the quilting detail. I have all my tape off, both the front and the back. I'm going to stitch out the quilting. Everything is quilted. The next thing we do is we're going to take our zipper pull. It says to open it 3/4 of the way and be sure the pull is inside the project. Make sure it stays inside your project. There's my stitch line. Here's my zipper pull. Grab your 3 inches of ribbon and a D-ring. Fold it in half, and we're going to lay that over the zipper pull with a 1/2 inch outside of the line. So that's easy to do. This looks like it's about 1/2 inch. I'll just line that all up just like that, and you put it right over your zipper, and then we're going to tape this in place. I'm going to grab a piece of tape and put one right here and one right here. We are all taped. The next thing it's going to do is it's going to stitch out a tack down line right here across our ribbon. Now that that's tacked down, we can go ahead and remove the tape. You want to grab your piece of backing fabric. We want to place it right side down, covering the entire project. So look at the outside of the project. Cover the entire project. I like to start with a piece of tape at the top, and then I lift it and I look. Oh, easily covering the entire project. Go ahead and put my other 3 pieces of tape, and then I'll stitch that tack down line. Remove this tape. And once you have this tape off, we're going to take this off the machine. I took my tape off. It says to flip it to the back. So go ahead and turn it over. It says remove the tape. I already did remove my tape. You want to get your last piece of the yellow fabric. You want to put the right side down. So right side of this on the right side of that. Again, covering that rectangle. Right side's down. And we're going to go ahead and tape. Everything is taped down. I'm going to flip it back going to bring it back to the machine, and it's going to stitch the final tack down line, but it's going to stitch here, up, over, 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 and it's going to leave a little opening on the bottom. Get our project out of our hoop. We want to trim a 1/4 inch away from these stitch lines. Since this is a box and it's not a curve, I'm going to go ahead and rotary cut this. I don't think I need my pinking shears for this. To help this turn easily, you can clip your corners, get a little bit of that bulk out, and then you can even clip them a little bit more, because once you cut the corner, there's still a little bit more you can cut right there. Right there. If you were to accidentally cut your stitching, just put it on your sewing machine and really quick stitch as close to that stitch line as you can. Everything is trimmed. You want to go ahead and turn it right side out, so you just have this little thin piece of lining fabric and then everything else on that side. So be careful. Turn it gently, and then grab a point turner for the corners. I gave it a quick press. This isn't the last time we're going to turn it. We're going to flip it one more time, but I needed it to be flat enough because we have to close this hole. This is another, you should probably hand stitch it, but I'm going to do it on my sewing machine thing. Fold your raw edge in and this raw edge in, and then that's going to be a straight stitch to go ahead and close up that seam. I do have it tacked down. I've got threads again, just like before on the other project. One thing I thought about was I did trim around it a second time to get rid of some of the bulk, but in doing so, I had it trimmed so close when I had to fold my pieces under and then sew to close it up, I really didn't have enough fabric. So when you're trimming around before you flip it, where the opening is, maybe leave a little bit extra. That'll make it easier to close your project. But it is completely sealed. I did have to go over it twice, but that's okay. Again, if you want the best results, hand stitch it. I just do not like hand stitching at all. We're going to go ahead and flip it all the way right side out this time. So you're turning it through the zipper hole. Just be careful with it. And then once you get that turned through, you'll get your point turner again, help get the corners out, and then you can give it a good press with the pressing cloth because you've got the zipper on there. I gave it a good press. Now it's lying nice and flat. You can zip it closed. And this is a lip balm holder, so I went and grabbed some lip balm. I got this at QuiltCon this year from the Sew Tights booth. They were handing out lip balm. Let's go ahead and put one in so you can see the size. You could fit 2. Go ahead, zip it up, and then it can attach to the ring or whatever you're using to attach it to. If I made another one of these, I would make it a little bit bigger. We've got little dogs, so when you walk your dogs, you got to bring your doggy bags with you, and it could fit the roll of bags if it was a little bit bigger. Here's a picture from the instructions. It shows using the little key ring attachment to attach this to the main ring. You can do that. Or you can just attach it to the same ring as this bag, and then you've got this extra ring. My keys are on a clip-on, so I could clip my keys onto that. Thank you for joining me to make the Hoop Studio Holly's handbag accessories. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. I'll be bringing you Hoop Studio every month, and I just started adding perfectly pieced. If there's anything in particular you'd like to see from Me Time Delivered or Kimberbell, please let me know in the comments below. There's also videos already posted for the Star Spangled Beauty Ladder Quilt and the Bella Box, as well as some of the Bella Box bonus projects. I am working my way through the Bella Box bonus designs. There's going to be more fun projects coming soon. Let me know how your projects turned out. I'll see you next time.